before this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. RTD Live Talk, Wednesday night, the 6th day of the month of June 2018, and I'm checking in at 9:40. Clock is ticking, and so as always, it's midweek, and definitely wanted to jump online for a live stream and open up the open up the phone for anyone who want to call in and share what's on your mind. Wasn't able to get to a news article today, but I got a couple articles I want to talk about that I think is real key to understanding where we're at and what is happening all around us that's not really getting a lot of mainstream play. And so, as always, before I dive into things further, I'd like to check in and see what's going on, who's chiming in. I know we got the NBA playoffs, and so it's real. I know it's risky to have a live stream at the same time the playoffs are on, but gives me a chance to see who's really out there, RTD fan, and willing to jump online to chime in and share some stuff with the community. So, Sloppy Style, Scott Robinson, what's up, my friend? Silver on its way up. Yeah, I noticed that earlier. I actually checked out the charts and saw precious metals was doing pretty good for the day. And let me thumb over there and see. And so it looks like it was up to 1670-ish, and now it's around 1668. And so, yeah, it's that's some action there. That's a lot of action. But yet, also keep in mind, once again, you know, we're expecting to see something significant, and it's not time just yet. So that plays into some of the articles I want to talk about that can lead up to the timing of precious metals, as well as all those undervalued assets that will stand to see some gains in the coming future. And so I want to switch my screen and actually get into one of the articles that I wanted to cover earlier but didn't have a chance to do such. And so this article here is from Business Insiders Australia, and it says the world's biggest hedge fund warns 2019 is setting up to be a dangerous period for the economy. And so, like in prior articles, news updates, I always talk about the recession. A lot of people, based upon how you measure the recession in and of itself, it's usually 6 to 12 months after, give or take, it starts before the bureaus come out and say it's officially a recession. So it's good to say that we can be experiencing some real significant shifts right now in those measurements, but we won't hear about it till, say, January, December-ish, give or take, 2019. So when I saw this article here, it talks about the idea that Bridgewater Associates is bearish on nearly every financial asset. It said in a recent note in 2000 to a client, says 2019 is setting up to be a dangerous period for the economy, the giant hedge fund said, as well as analysts from JP Morgan have also noted the risk of a systemic market correction in 2019 are building. So here we have the idea, this is a mainstream primary financial news source here, and they're publicizing in June the idea that 2019 could be the time where we see, as it says, systemic market corrections. And so this plays right into the next article that plays right along with this whole systemic aspect. And this one here has to do with the debt contagion. And so I commented on the whole debt contagion a couple news articles ago, but idea that all it takes is one little isolated event, or events nowadays for the most part are not really isolated, i.e. what's happening in Italy. That's not an isolated event, even though it's primarily a internal problem they're dealing with. But yet, several countries throughout the EU are dealing with the same problems of too much indebtedness, no savings for the most part, no reserves and savings, and so they're looking for ways of continuing to fund all their social programs as well as fund the government, along with the idea of receiving more loans from the IMF with these promises of cuts and reforms, i.e. austerity. So a lot of countries in the EU are all dealing with that, so it's not a contagion event, but yet all it takes is one bad deal, one bad bet, or one default somewhere down the line that could then spill over to all those other countries, causing a contagion as far as just the dominoes beginning to trickle down. And this one here has to do with debt and how what's happening with the Turkish lira right now, as well as Argentina, are two emerging markets that are really experiencing the pinch because, once again, they're trying their best to prop up their own currency against, for Argentina, they're primarily using dollars, and then Turkey, they're using the euros as well as I saw something about trying to prop their Turkish lira up with gold now as well. So, give an idea what's going on here. It talks about the emerging market crisis and contagion in Argentina and Turkey could be channeled to other countries. And IF report says there are now concerns over a high concentration of risk in Lebanon, Colombia, and South Africa, which could spread further throughout the global economy. So this is the addition of 3 more countries, Lebanon, Colombia, and South Africa, all of which are experiencing similar problems to Turkey and Argentina, in the idea that their currencies are having problems and they are trying to find ways to prop up the currency by dipping into their reserves to then buy some of their currencies to kind of counterbalance that, all in the midst of running low on savings or reserves. So everyone's running low on savings for the most part to prop up their own currency, and it's just a matter of time before they basically default because they can't continue to borrow much longer. So these are things that are happening right now where you have a hedge fund, the biggest hedge fund, saying that 2019, then you have these contagion type of events all play into the idea that pretty soon there has to be something has to give pretty soon. So the idea of 2019 being the year that, as they say, a systemic market correction happens, I believe it could happen in the second half of this year, because the idea that all this stuff is factored in, all these nations are suffering. Not to talk about, on the consumer side, just the idea that people aren't spending money as much as they used to. They're not borrowing as much. And so it's just a matter of time before things really begin to crumble. And so I think that these events here will probably lead to some type of market hiccup sometime this year. So I don't give it to 2018 before it's officially announced that something is going on that people will begin to feel. And it had to do a lot with the idea that everyone keeps their eyes on primary financial markets, ideally the stock market. And so people measure and gauge their wealth and nation's prosperity based upon the stock market. So in my opinion, I believe that sometime this year we're going to see some type of hiccup, and it usually happens in the fall. Like if you go back and use the Great Recession, for example, there was all types of signs leading up to what happened in the fall of 2008 that led to, i.e., what happened. It says, I thought we were close in 1986. Nobody knows the time it passed. That's a good point. And so, and if you're referring to 1986, then you said you thought we were close, but yet in 1987 there was a market, correction or correction / collapse. But yet what's going to be different with this next one, in my opinion, is the fact that we call it a correction. Mainstream media call it correction. Everyone knows that there needs to be some type of rebalancing of inflated asset vehicles. And so I don't think it's going to be a correction. I think it's more so going to be a complete systemic, I want to say collapse, but that collapse is strong because there's no telling what the monetary policy will be in response to any type of major dip in the Dow, for example. Like the Dow could probably dip several thousand points and then the next day it bounced back because of, whatever the exchange stabilization fund or whatever the Federal Reserve decides to do. But I think we're on the verge of some type of systemic event that could probably happen before the end of this year. But yet, no telling. As always, we'll see how things pan out. But just I want to share those 2 articles earlier, just so people can actually see what's happening, man. Because I think that a lot of things are happening right now that we're not being told. and we're distracted by all the things happening around us, whether it be what's happening in D.C. with our politicians, and then we have the primary election coming up this fall, and then what else? We, of course, right now we got the playoffs right now, so people are really tuned into the TV. And what's interesting is the fact that, for a second I thought about like man, I want to watch the game too, but I'm like, the game ain't really important in comparison to living up to my promise of trying to do my midweek stream. So here I am. So I appreciate those that are tuning in, and whatever else is happening, feel free to call in. And so I definitely love to have someone call in and share their thoughts and any news that might be out there that I was not able to get to or not able to cover. I am definitely open and interested in finding out what's happening out here in the news. So I'll thumb through some of the questions in the chat. Let me copy and paste some stuff. I just copy and paste some stuff. All right, in the description, and I'll thumb through some questions and see what's going on here. How's everybody doing? What we got going on here? Waiting on the question things to reload. Okay, let me see here. As I heard now that Trump is in office. TGE, NWO switched up their agenda 2011. Angel, explain that. What do you mean Trump is in office? The New World Order switched up their agenda. Share with me some things that I may not be familiar with. Says Two Feathers said just a big haircut. Yeah, a major haircut. Has JP Morgan has a lot of silver in their holdings. Very true. And so it's very idea that JP Morgan is their technical analysts are coming out saying that a recession or a market correction is coming in 2019 as well. And they so happen to be holding the largest known stockpile of silver that they've accumulated since the last recession, and they've really ramped it up over the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. I wonder what they're holding all our silver for. What do they have in mind with that silver? And the question would be is what would they do with all that silver during, after the recession? Or could they see perhaps the true value or the true price of silver rising to the point where they want to make sure that they're the largest holders of it? And so I'm not even sure exactly how much. Let me see. I'll see how much JP Morgan stockpile worth of silver is on their books. JP Morgan silver. And then what I'll do is I'll see what it's currently. JP Morgan silver holders explain who owns the most silver today. Silver prices are surging. JP Morgan doing the latest greatest silver. So let me see if there's an actual tonnage of how much JP Morgan is holding on to. It says the silver trade. I'm gonna put this. I'll actually share my screen, let you know what I'm looking at. So this is an article I just typed in. Do like JP Morgan's doing, buy silver. So this was in February, but let's thumb through it and see if they actually give it an ounce. So we got so they have the largest hoard of silver since the Hunt brothers from 73 to 1980 said they had 100 million ounces of silver. And so here's a timeline of the silver saga. The largest bubble in silver history was set off by two brothers' alleged attempt to corner the market. And so silver hit $50 in 1980. And so let me go down some more. Okay, here we go. Silver, COMEX, open interest value. Number of contracts. Daily opening. Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Berkshire Hathaway. Still not telling me how much JP Morgan, Warren Buffett bought their 129 million ounces of silver in 1998. So 129 million ounces was Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger when they cornered the market. Okay, so here we have from 2011 to 2018, JP Morgan has 132.1 million ounces of silver. And so what is interesting is the fact that I know that there was a lot of problems. I saw some videos that basically the Treasury or whoever else government-wise came in and busted up the Hunt brothers cornering the market. And there was some legal consequences, a lot of court stuff that made the Hunt brothers sell at below value their silver just so they didn't corner the market back in the 80s. And then we have here Berkshire Hathaway had a heck of a pile, and I believe and I heard that they themselves, part of the, could be conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, but they end up selling their silver to the government or to some entity to help stave the price from skyrocketing. And of course, Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett, they got some favors come bailout time during the Great Recession. So I think they could have made you scratch my back with the silver, we'll scratch your back come bailout time. And so they got rid of their silver hoard. And so now we have JP Morgan. And I wonder if there's any cry from any financial institutions or any commodities change admission, whatever, the CPT, whatever they call it. Are they crying boo-hoo saying that JP Morgan has too much silver to corner the market, they have to sell theirs or whatever? And so what my whole point in looking this up was the fact that JP Morgan has 132.1 million ounces right now. And so they have the largest, JP Morgan Chase, out of all these banks. We have Brinks, we have Social, Mercado, we have HSBC, Delaware, JP Morgan Chase, CNT, all these depository institutions. JP Morgan is sitting on the largest stack of silver. And so here we go. So the question is, at today's dollar amount, at say 1658, 16 whatever it is now, times 1.3, 132 million. I wouldn't even begin to know how. Let me see if I can pull up a calculator and calculate how much exactly in dollar terms. So let me see. We got how do you do 100? Man, that's gonna be something fierce. So that'll probably be 132. Man, 132 million. There we go. Times, boom, 1650 equals $2.17 billion today. So right now, if they were to just unload that, they would get $2.1 billion worth of silver. Now, let's say that according to the U.S. debt clock, let me go look up that, the U.S. debt clock, and get an idea of what the silver hoard, what the price of silver would be if there was true price discovery based upon the amount of paper in circulation. So looking over here, we got the dollar to silver ratio. Where's the price of silver? Paper to silver ratio, dollar to gold. So let me see. The year-over-year increase, the intermittent divided by the. So as of now, silver will be $570 an ounce. As it says here, it says the year-over-year increase in the U.S. M2 money supply divided by the yearly world production of silver. So say if there was some type of systemic collapse, some type of systemic event where there was loss in confidence in paper, stock market crash, all the conventional financial assets go belly up. JP Morgan sitting on 132.1 million ounces of silver at $16.50 now is $2.1 billion. So let's take this number, $570, as a way of saying, okay, if all those papers begin chasing silver and gold or whatever else, but what will how much would they have in their possession? So we would go clear that, go 132, boom, 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 132 million times 500, and say just best case scenario, I'll say $570 per ounce. They would have $75 billion worth of metal right now. So I can understand how they are probably holding on to that as a globally systemic financial insurance policy is probably what it is. Globally systemic financial insurance policy is what JP Morgan is holding on to with 132 million ounces. So you take those numbers, I can understand how they can probably want to sit on that for a while and reassure themselves that JP Morgan Chase, their bank will be open for business through the whole entire collapse or restructuring or remonitoring or whatever they call it. And on the other side, when it comes time to having some tangible hard assets to put up, to use, to say, hey, we got something in our vaults, we got 132 million ounces worth, we can do business, that bank is going to be around. So I noticed another trend is that during recessions / depressions, the too big to fail banks get bigger, and then the regional and commercial banks that are smaller tend to go out of business because they're all dependent upon the FDIC, and the FDIC for the most part, works for the too big to fail banks and the federal government and the Federal Reserve banks. So it's good to say that J.P. Morgan Chase could be one of the last 2 or 3 banks standing, because we know Lehman Brothers went under last time, and then Bear Stearns, another financial institution, went under, and then what is it? I'm sure there's some more that went under that I can't think of now, but it's good to say that 7 or 8 too big to fail banks now, a couple of those could go under, and guess who will be sitting on top because they're sitting on so much silver, and more than likely it'll probably be J.P. Morgan Chase. And so that is some things I thought I would share with you. I really didn't plan on going that route, but it's just interesting how that worked out. So we have here, Pat says 2.17 billion is nothing. The price would be up 100 times higher than it is now if we had true price discovery. Very true, Pat. And so that's why I did the, if it was say $600 an ounce, that 132 million ounces would be 75 or 80 billion dollars, which, you know, in the grander scheme of things, doesn't sound like a lot when we're talking about quadrillion and derivatives and trillions and national debt and stuff like that. But you think of everything around us is crumbling, all those digits just on computer screens and bank accounts, saving accounts, you know, vanish or just become zeros or are frozen in the bank. Having that much silver in your possession, you know, that whatever it is in $1 billion will add up to equal a lot, because it's actually physical, tangible wealth that's in somebody's vault. So it's a small number, but yet as all these digits and paper gets inflated away and defaulted on, that right there will probably end up, that 132 million ounces will probably be denominated in some new form of currency, perhaps. So say if it's not in Federal Reserve notes, then it could be, you know, they can exchange those silver notes for whatever it is comes after, currency-wise, that will be used to restore confidence back into society. So just stuff that, you know, come across that worth talking about. It says they had a false alarm yesterday. The debit cards didn't work to see how we react. Is all planned. Angel, really? I didn't know that there was a false alarm or a false flag type of event with debit cards. I got to look that up. If you can, send me a article on that. I'd love to talk about that. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason from Boone, North Carolina. How you doing today?
I'm excellent. Jason from North Carolina. What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
Yes, sir. You were talking about J.P. Morgan.
Yes.
Price fixing. 2015, aluminum prices being fixed. Look at all the oil tankers that were sitting at the Gulf Coast back in, was it 2006 or 7? I can't remember when the hurricane was. It really caused a spike in oil prices, and the refineries were down. Yes.
Okay.
My point is, the top 5 banks, they need to be split up. They're big deals with trust and whatnot.
Yeah. So here would be the quick.
I'm sorry about you. A little nervous. That's all.
No problem. No problem at all. You're doing fine, my friend. So here's a question that the idea of splitting up the too big to fail banks, like at this point, because they are the foundation of our financial system. What would the process be to split them up, wean them down, or of course reinstate this Glass-Steagall? But then that'll take some time to separate the financial from the savings and deposit type of side of things. So what would you think about how would you break them up in your opinion?
Wow, I would try to keep them separated from investing and side of the equation and just your traditional loans. What we normally do.
Yeah. So basically, reinstate the Glass-Steagall and then try to reinforce it. But here's my thing with that. I mean, I would love to see some type of policies implemented to show the American public that the banks aren't too big to fail, and then if they do happen to go under, unfortunately, it's going to take everybody's savings and deposits and investments down with them. But we have to be willing to basically let them banks go under in order for us to be able to gain some type of stability and confidence back in our financial system. Because as of now, it's all lost. Because everyone knows that come next hiccup, the most important thing to save first is the banks or the financial sector, and the people last. So it'll be interesting to see how our government handles that. But it's good to say they're going to take care of the banks first, because that's their campaign contributors.
Oh yeah, they're the ones buying the bonds. What do you think about a cap on the companies, like 250 billion plus must be split up, or
Yeah.
like having some kind of cap where you're at the point where you're too big to fail.
Yeah. But my friend, it's gonna be interesting to see, because with all this stuff happening now, something has to give, man. And for whatever reason, I've really been thinking about the idea that this next market correction will not just be a correction. It's going to be a game changer for everybody. I believe we're all going to feel the pinch in one way or another. And I can't really, of course, there's no way of guessing or figuring out how it's going to unravel, but it's going to be painful. I just feel it in my gut that it's going to be something that we wish we didn't have to experience. We're going to wish that they would have let some things happen in 2008 so that we could have already felt a little bit of pain, as opposed to this whole papering over everything. But it's going to be interesting, my friend.
Farmer, and we cows down here, and right now we're getting killed because about 4 years ago the prices were like 60% higher, and nowadays you're not getting almost anything. You're just better off just not taking them to the market. I know there's a glut, but yeah, I just want to see. I don't know, man. Just hoping, praying for better days.
Yeah. Well, my friend, best thing I think to say is definitely stay praying up, my friend. This whole scenario we're entering now is no surprise to the man above. So I ask for wisdom and guidance through this whole thing, and believe that through this, there'll be some great opportunity for those that were prepared and aware and stayed prayerful. So I appreciate you calling in, my friend. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
All right. Enjoy your night.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Stay prayerful. This is going to be interesting. I'm not sure why, but I feel really like I'm not here having a conversation tonight just by coincidence. I really strongly believe that, like this subject matter, I couldn't not think about it even if I tried, just because my mind is so tuned in and my focus is on finding out information to better, share information with the audience, as well as on my end to begin preparations for, more importantly, just being aware of things I believe will present opportunities. Like being in tune to what's happening will help you get through these times in the future, I believe. So I'm going to keep doing what I do and staying encouraged. Hello, my friend. Hello. Thanks for calling. What's your name? Where you calling from?
It's Ramon, bold like a leopard from Ohio.
Ramon, how you doing, buddy?
Thank God. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. What's on your mind tonight?
I did see a report. I don't know if you mentioned this earlier. I joined only about 4 or 5 minutes ago, but Reason.com has Social Security will be insolvent in 16 years.
Yeah.
Do you think it could be like what does that mean? Because I hear they're dipping into the reserves now, but what's the difference between talking about being insolvent and dipping into the reserves?
Very good.
Like they're going to run out of the fund.
Right. So to my knowledge, I saw that article. I didn't have a chance to go through it. I was actually going to look into it deeper, but yet, for whatever reason, it talks about Social Security has not dipped into the trust fund in 36 years. I read, and so what exactly that trust fund is, I'm not sure, because I was under the impression that whatever fund was available was already tapped into, and it was low key depleted already. So with that being the case, I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to as far as that fund that's available, and so I would definitely do some more research on it myself and find out, but I'm not sure really to speak on it in that manner. But
yeah, are you following the situation over in Nicaragua?
Yes.
The riots that have been happening.
I have.
I've been looking on.
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been looking almost daily, and I think that was it because of a bankruptcy there that they decided to raise the tax and lower the benefits, or how bad was the situation before this recent stuff started? Right.
So I actually found out about the whole situation in Nicaragua after the Social Security reform policy was implemented within that first week or so, and then there was backlash from the public. And then at that point, they rescinded on the idea of having that reform. And then when I read a couple articles leading up to it, it mentioned how they were basically over the last couple of years just experiencing more a tighter budget. It's basically they're running out of funds. They're running out of ways to continue to keep those promises going at the rate they're at. And so they were going to make some cutbacks. And of course, the easiest thing to cut back is the Social Security reform, is the Social Security area, all the entitlement spending. So I believe because they were running low on funds, over budget in certain areas to fund the government, they decided to make some cuts and happened to be that. So I believe it's a similar situation as into what's happening everywhere else, because entitlement spending is starting to catch up for every country, it looks like, i.e. we're just talking about Social Security for us. So it looks like, the idea of every government having established 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, established, health care for their citizens and retirement benefits in the form of Social Security, as well as all the other promises. Those promises are about to be broken right now. That's what it looks like is happening, one bit by bit. And it's unfortunate that the emerging markets and the second, third world countries are the ones that, experience it at the greatest level right now. So we're hearing about them. But imagine that same situation happening here, where reform is imposed, i.e. cuts, and you have Social Security being cut now. That'll be very, there'll be people in the streets, and I believe, as well.
Yeah, no, I know my time's up, but I did tag you on a post earlier where Mark Dice has this video where he's offering people a 10-ounce bar of silver or a chocolate Hershey bar,
yeah.
And like everybody was taking the so
yeah.
Basically, I'm glad I finally got a chance to take another view at your show and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, my friend. Thanks for chiming in, and definitely I will dive into that Social Security stuff myself, because I'm curious as to find out what fund they're talking about dipping into. So I'll check into it and do a video on it.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, my friend. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. Social Security reform, i.e., and so in the EU they call reform austerity, and everywhere else they call it reform. And all reform, we hear the word reform, it means cut. They cutting something, and so it's interesting to see how the change of words can stir up different emotions. But yet Nicaragua, that's unfortunate, man, because the capital, I think, is Managua. I was actually, planning on going there. Nicaragua was on my to-do list this summer, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll be going now, just because it's not really too safe to go down to Nicaragua right now, especially with all this stuff happening. So I don't see myself going, even though I would like to go still, because I love Central America area, man. I really love it down there. But anyway, so that draws us to the end of our show tonight. Clock has stopped. We are done. It's been great. I appreciate those who did chime in and call in, and so I appreciate you guys, sticking with me tonight and chiming in. I hope that that J.P. Morgan stockpile was inspiring to those that are in the sound money community to realize that if one of the too big to fail banks is holding on to something, then they are not concerned with the price. Neither should you, because they know something is coming that they are well positioned for. So, as I always say, make sure you get your weight up. And J.P. Morgan got their weight up heavily, so they're in good company. I'm sure they got a couple things up their sleeves. So make sure you continue to do what you've been doing to this point. And also, as you see some things on my shoulder, start in the next week ends the silver giveaway. So make sure you guys register for that if you haven't. And actually, I'm thinking about my next little giveaway, because I enjoy having a chance to get people to interact. So I might do a little crypto giveaway. So stay tuned for that one. But also connect with me on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I know everyone has Instagram, so I share video clips that I do from seconds like this. And if you call in, if you're one of the people who called in, I usually cut up those segments and share on my social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Steam it. And so definitely you can, probably be one of the videos that I share. So Instagram is at Rethinking the Dollar. But other than that, everybody, I appreciate you guys chiming in. Check me on Facebook as well. And if you have not, visit the RTD University page. Share that page there, because I believe it's a full-fledged curriculum in and of itself. And then also the free ebook, take advantage of that. So other than that, give me a thumbs up. Share this video if you want. Help get the word out. And tomorrow night, same time, same place, be here. Be ready to chit-chat. And also, like Bo mentioned, tag me some things so I can share and be up to date on what's happening, because there's too much news for one person to cover. So thanks again for chiming in. Everybody enjoy their night. Instagram pad is at Rethinking the Dollar, or just Rethinking the Dollar, at Rethinking the Dollar, all connected at Instagram. Check me out there and go from there. So enjoy your evening. Be safe and enjoy the rest of the game for those that will watch it or tune in. All right. Peace.